Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all stream on YouTube or on Rumble. And please let me know if you can hear me sound and well, because 1 minute before I started this live streaming, the software of the mixer stopped all of a sudden, and I cannot connect the microphone to my laptop. But now I'm checking the settings. It seems that the volume is correct. So, but please confirm to me before I start this conversation with you, which is going to be a Q&A answering your most pressing questions. I think the problem is from my software. You can hear me now, but the volume is going to be very bad. So yes, I know it was working well. Unfortunately, it's a software issue between my microphone and the laptop. I'm trying to fix it now. If you can just give me 1 minute. Yes, I know it's echoey, my friend, because I'm now talking to the webcam and not to the microphone. I'm trying to solve this. It's just crazy. It doesn't want to recognize. I was just having, it was just working, and now it says there's a problem with the mixer, which is unpleasant to me at all. So let's see. This is going to work now. Software update. It doesn't work. It doesn't want to work. Default. So I'm very sorry for this inconvenience, guys. This is something it's out of my hand, unfortunately. The software of the microphone is not connecting correctly. I will try to put it here. Let's see if this site works better. Hope it does, really. Checking for updates. Yeah, it should work now. So let's see, I will change the microphone back to... So let me know if you can hear me sound and well now. I think the microphone works again, and I'm all good, bro. Sound is okay. Sound is very good. Finally, this thing really bothers me that the last moment it never happens, and then it happens just 1 minute before. So today I started a little bit late because I had my last driving hour. And for those who were asking me last time, oh, don't you know how to drive? No, I know how to drive a car, but I'm trying to change my original driving license with a German driving license. So you have to go and do a theory test, and then also you have to drive some hours, and then go and do your exam. So tomorrow is my exam. I don't know if I should ask for prayers, but I'm a little bit nervous. And the weather, it sucks here. It's snowing everywhere. And tomorrow is going to be my driving test. So tomorrow they will decide if I deserve to have a German driving license. Additionally, in the afternoon tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern American Time, Dr. Tarek Kiril Amar is coming to Syriana Analysis on the show, and we will discuss together the anticipated meeting between Trump and President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and the hysteria in Europe among the European politicians that finally peace would be restored to Ukraine. So if you guys are ready for this Q&A, I would encourage you to post your questions and I will start answering them. So I will go up and see the first question by our very good friend of Syrian Analysis, Johan. He says, Salam Kevork, recently I saw reports saying that Egypt has stationed dozens of tanks near its borders with Israel and are ready for a war with Israel. Is this true? Now, the Egyptian army increased its let's say, the number of the soldiers in the Sinai and also on the borders with the Gaza Strip and with the Red Sea. So there is definitely reinforcement from the Egyptian side, and this is in order to send a signal to Israel that the ethnic cleansing is a red line for Egypt and they're ready to go to war. Now, will the war happen? I truly rule out that possibility that a war would erupt between Israel and Egypt. And I think that requires direct Saudi backing to Egypt and Emirati backing. And I don't think that the Saudis and the Emiratis are going to pay Egypt billions of dollars in order to start a war or to engage in acts of hostilities with the Israeli side. So Egypt is also in a dire situation, but it has the capacity to deter the ethnic cleansing, right? It has enormous army. It is the biggest army in the region. It has more tanks than Israel and probably the Air Force. They have a really good army in Egypt and they're loyal to President Sisi. But that doesn't mean that Egypt will go to war against Israel or wants to go to war, especially in this dire economic situation in Egypt. And if there is going to be a war, this requires direct support from Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, which I truly rule out that possibility. Also, what do you think about Hafez Bashar al-Assad's revelations believed to be posted on Telegram recently? The events of December 8th, is the source credible? Yes, it seems that this is the account of Hafez Bashar al-Assad, the son of the former president of Syria. And he is explaining his side of the story. However, if Hafez is watching this stream, and this is my friendly and brotherly advice to him, if he doesn't have something important to say, he shouldn't come and post about the last days, because there are so many missing details that the people deserve to know, especially from his father. And if his father is not allowed to speak because he has some asylum issues in Moscow, I understand that. However, if he doesn't have anything new to say to the people or explain and give details to the people what happened from the day the attack on Aleppo, how is it possible for Aleppo to fall that quickly? What happened to the intelligence? Why couldn't they anticipate this attack? I did it. How couldn't they do it? And why the army laid down its arms in northern Hama and Homs, and why. There are millions of questions that are unanswered, and the people are speculating. So if he doesn't have something important to tell to the people, it's better to stay silent, you know? I don't want to know if his cousins escaped with him. I don't want to know if the brother of Bashar made it out with him. I don't want to know these details. Nobody wants to know these details. People deserve answers to the most pressing questions, and they have to understand. And also, I'm sure he's very clever and a smart guy, and I'm sure he knows that the situation in Syria is beyond tragic. Syria no longer exists. Basically, the army is destroyed, the sovereignty is gone. There are 4 or 5 militaries on the Syrian territories. Turkey is going to build military bases. Israel has built 9 military posts, has stolen the water and the highest mount, destroyed the Syrian Arab army. And also, on the other hand, we have these Nusra terrorists. 30% of them are multinational, are being incorporated into the Syrian state, and they're committing heinous crimes against the minorities in Homs and Hama and Latakia. And many people in the Alawite community are cursing Bashar day and night because of what happened to them after he left, because they are now associated to him, although they haven't benefited from the Assad government. Most of the Alawite people in the coast are poor people, and they didn't benefit from it. So Hafiz, if you're listening to this stream, and I'm sure that if you're watching Syriana or somebody would send you this video, if you don't have something important to say, please don't come. Whoever is giving you media advice, this person or group of people or whoever this person is, I don't know, this person is giving you the wrong advice. And don't expose also yourself in video in the streets giving geolocations to all these mad people on X. Now they have geolocated him where he's walking. And then we have someone like Celine Qasem, who is paid by the USAID and the American government. She works for the Syrian Emergency Task Force Organization, which is funded by the US government and the USAID. And she's asking for the Chechen and the, I don't know, other Russians, let's say from Chechnya, from, I think she mentioned where, I don't know, Tajikistan or something. Anyways, she's asking for the Takfiris and the terrorists to kill him. Don't give them free, let's say, don't make their job easier for them. That's my message. And if you have something important to say, to explain what happened this needs probably hours of podcast conversation for people to understand what happened. And it can't be that somebody comes and posts something 1,500 words, for example, or letters to explain what happened. Nobody wants to know if the cousins were with you or not. People deserve answers. People are paying the price every day for not also having answers. So whoever is telling you to go public and speak, he's giving you the wrong advice, because the correct advice is, yes, you should be on social media. You're a private person. You didn't have any official status under the Assad government, but you will always be associated to your father. Therefore, you have to be careful with the information you're giving and what type of information you're revealing to the people. Because if you're not giving them anything that they can process what happened, they will still be and continue to be in this trauma that the president has left them and escaped to Moscow, right? So this would be my humble advice. Who will invest in the rebuilding of Gaza? Won't it be too risky to invest billions into rebuilding Gaza if there is a chance Hamas and Israel will go? A very good question, Daniel. And this is something very important. Like if Egypt says they're going to send a counter proposal to President Biden about the reconstruction of Gaza. If the reconstruction of Gaza is going to take 3 to 5 years, and then there is going to be a similar war between Hamas and Israel, or war, then this is unsustainable. I don't know. I think the Palestinians are in a very vulnerable situation at the current moment, and they don't have any, except for Yemen, basically, which, of course, I mean, they are firing some missiles against Israel or blocking the Red Sea, but they are not game changer. Like they couldn't shift the balance of power. They're not superpower, right? They're not even regional power. The only power which can change the equation in Palestine is Iran, but Iranian interference in Palestine has proven to be also counterproductive for them. I mean, I'm not saying that this is not the right thing. It is the right thing to support the Palestinians, but it seems to me that the Arabic world, and especially the Muslim world, they don't want Iran, because there are so many people. They have this sectarian. They put this sectarian lens, and they see Iran from a sectarian lens, and they hate Iran because they are Shia, although Iranians have supported them. And the same goes to Lebanon and Hezbollah, and they don't have an appetite for another war with Israel. So Palestinians are in a very vulnerable situation. And I told you the truth since the ceasefire agreement. So if the Egyptians and the Saudis and the Emiratis and the Jordanians sell the Palestinians, it's going to end up in a horrible way. So I hope that Egypt would not back off and wouldn't be bullied and persuaded in order to accept the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. Andrea is saying, I hope you are feeling better. I'm feeling every day better. My energy is coming back, but I haven't had in my life any situation where I was ill for 2 weeks now. It's 2 weeks. I'm still coughing and my energy is still like half energy. I can't even go to the gym. I go to the gym 5 times per week. I can't go to the gym. I never had anything like cardiovascular disease or virus that was so harmful, let's say. And I'm sportive. I do cardio. I do my supplements, the vitamin D, and I eat healthy. And I thought that I'm immune. I don't smoke, but it happened. I saw the ceasefire is back. Can you talk more about that? Is back on. I'm not sure if the ceasefire agreement has crumbled or if there is any new updates just right now because I was out for my driving lesson, but I don't think that the ceasefire agreement has collapsed because Trump says they have a deadline for Saturday, and the Israelis are also imposing new conditions for the hostages. And we have to know that there are few phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, I believe. And in each phase, different type of hostages would be released, some of which are prisoners of war, or they're not hostages. So now Trump wants for Hamas to release all the hostages by 12 noon on Saturday, which is against the agreement. And Hamas says they will not release them all. So we have to wait till Saturday and see what is going to be the attitude or the behavior or the next step of Hamas, and accordingly we judge on Monday. Okay. Did Syria's HTS attack northern Lebanon? Yes, HTS, of course, as I mentioned, there are 5 militaries on Syrian territories. None of them, according to HTS, pose any threat, but Hezbollah within the borders of Lebanon pose a threat on Syria, according to HTS. So yes, they attacked Lebanon, but Hezbollah didn't respond. Those were the people who responded against these Nusra HTS terrorists were mostly tribesmen, people who work in some of which are smugglers, others are selling other things to between Syria and Lebanon. They were not like an army like in Hezbollah or the Lebanese army. They later intervened, but Hezbollah didn't yet. Is it Hamas or Israel that is breaking the ceasefire deal? To be honest with you, I haven't seen Hamas breaking the ceasefire deal. Hamas is not firing on Israel and is releasing the hostages and the prisoners of war according to the plan and the agreement, phase by phase. However, Israel has bombed Gaza many times after the ceasefire and has killed around 100 people after the ceasefire agreement, whereas Hamas killed 0 Israelis, right? And the drone never stopped. The same goes to Lebanon. The Israeli drones surveillance are 24 watching Lebanon, violating the ceasefire agreement, and also bombing Lebanon, right? So I would argue that Israel has violated the ceasefire. Where is Maher Assad and is he still relevant? I mean, according to the son of Bashar, Hafiz, he said that his uncle, Maher, joined them in the same plane flight to Moscow. So he should be in Moscow. And there are probably hundreds of Syrian officers who are in Moscow at the current moment. And I have heard from sources in Moscow that they live in the suburbs of Moscow, these officers, and they are, I don't want to say, I don't know. I heard that they're living miserable lives there. This is what I want to say. So, sound is good. Sound is good. Who is Mesad Boulos? I don't know who is Mesad Boulos. I think you are referring to the guy who owns the French company, which now invested in the Syrian Latakia port. Question: did Bashar al-Assad betray Syria? So this is a question. First, he has to answer why he escaped. And I think the decision to escape Syria is by itself is a horrible decision. And the president of Syria, whoever this person is, he should immunize his political and military apparatuses from infiltration, from coup attempts, from attempts to buy officers in the military. According to the son of Bashar, he says that his father lost communication with the command center of the Syrian military. Why? Why did he lose communication to the command? What happened? Was the command center hacked? Was it jammed? Or somebody bought high-ranking officers in the military? What happened? But leaving anyways to Moscow without giving answers or securing the fate of the country is, the least to say is, I wouldn't have expected him to do something like this. And many people like me in Syria and outside Syria. This was a horrible, bad decision for Syria and for the Syrian people. I cannot really forgive what happened. Because for me, Assad I wasn't like a loyalist to person. I was on the side of the Syrian army against these terrorists. Because I knew the outcome is going to be exactly this. These Al-Qaeda fanatics are going to come to power. And it's not, Syria is way bigger and more important and more civilized than these people who are governing Syria. Those who are governing Syria now have basically established what is called kakistocracy. The worst type of people are in charge of the country, right? So I'm very upset. I'm very upset on him and on the decision to leave, on the decision to not speak to the people. But if there is something that we should know, he should come and speak. If he's not allowed to speak, maybe he can through his son. But people deserve answers, and people paid huge prices for his escape and paid a huge price during the war by standing with him against this terroristic war, right? So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother from Kenya. Ahlan wa sahlan, brother Marqab Hassan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I didn't trim my beard, to be honest. I should have gone to my barber last week. I go to my barber once every 3 weeks to trim my beard. And last week, when I was very, very ill, was the 3rd week. So it's been now 4th week. If I, tomorrow is my driving license test. If I pass the exam on Saturday, I go to trim my beard. Is there any resistance to HTS in Syria? There is very little resistance to HTS in Syria, and there are isolated attacks against these al-Nusra terrorists in Syria, but there is no organized, well-equipped, well-armed, well-trained resistance against them, and they don't have also the backing of any regional or international power. So I would argue that this type of attacks remain isolated, and they don't achieve, they can't achieve their goals unless there is organized resistance with units and hierarchies and backing, also supply chains. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. Is your German good? If your German is good, will be easy. My German is good. I understand very well German. And I don't think there are philosophical terms in driving a car. It's just right and left and geradeaus to the front, to the back, and do U-turn. Those are the things. First, they lost the USAID funding, and now peace. It's the opposite of Christmas for the proxy war enthusiasts. I don't know if this is a question. Any books you recommend? About what, my friend? Like the other day, stay with me. So the other day, while I was checking my clothes, I found this book again, Brzezinski's book, The Grand Chessboard. And this was for me like a Bible to understand the US foreign policy in Eurasia, including the Middle East. When I read this book, I understood why the US acts the way it acts, especially in the past 40, 50 years. This was like my Bible to go book to understand Ukraine, right? When you read this book, you know why there is this proxy global war on Ukraine. But everything could change in the future because no book is eternal, right? Because the foreign policy of the US is also changing. And the empire is changing its colors nowadays. And they have had lots of soft power tools to project their power, like the USAID and NED and many others, of course. And we have to always watch and update our vision to the foreign policy of the US. But I go with this book all day, every day, to understand the foreign policy of the US in Eurasia. So, a question. Do you think Trump may look to start a war in the Middle East so America can send troops to take Sinai and seize the Suez Canal? Oh. Man. I don't want to say no, and I don't want to say yes. But I want to say I rule out that the US would go to war against Egypt or start a war in the Middle East. If there is going to be any war in the region, it's going to be against Iran, definitely not against Egypt. The US can use other ways to persuade Egypt, like cutting the annual aid to the Egyptian military. And as you may know, let's see how much the US pays per year to Egypt. So since 1978, since Egypt signed the peace treaty with Israel, the United States provided Egypt with 1.3 billion in military aid annually. And since Donald Trump stopped the foreign aid to the foreign countries and foreign entities, the only two countries that he continues sending money are Egypt and Israel. So he wants to keep his leverage over Egypt to this military aid. So I don't think that the United States needs to go to war against Egypt. They would try to blackmail and bully Egypt first by cutting this funding. So they would try to destroy the economy of Egypt by cutting the funding. And then they could turn the people, the Muslim Brotherhood people, against the system, regime, call it whatever you want, of Sisi. And they are very good in creating color revolutions. The US is the master of this. So I would argue that the Americans have better cards to play than to go to war against Egypt, right? Like cutting first economic blackmail, second is initiating or orchestrating internal revolution against ISIS. Question, Brother Kevork, have you researched on the Somali land split that is being dumped up by the West is the way of regaining control of Bab el-Mandeb Strait? If you guys know someone who could come to the show and explain, now drop names, especially if this person has an X account. Like I myself, I want someone to explain to me, to understand. To be honest with you, I'm not the person who knows. and I'm not having the enough time to do research about this. I'm focusing more on the Middle East, Ukraine, Far East Asia, and Europe. So I would be delighted if you could guys recommend name of a journalist or an expert on this case, and I would definitely send him an invite. Did Russia detain Bashar al-Assad? The answer is no. Russia did not detain Bashar al-Assad, and this is false, fake propaganda by some people who want to spread it, believe it. It's a conspiracy theory. It's not true. Russia didn't detain Bashar. He was in Moscow when Aleppo fell, and he returned to Syria, and then after 10 days or 14 days, he escaped the country. Hello from Sweden. Sorry for being late. No worries, brother Anders. Hello, Kevork, and the chat. Hello. What role do you see Turkey playing in the next few years? Will they provide any resistance to Israel's presence in Syria? The simple answer is no, because what happened in Syria during the invasion of HTS Nusra terrorists on Aleppo, Homs, Hama, Damascus was a mutual agreement between Turkey and Israel to restart the regime change war and finish the job and remove Assad from power. So both sides definitely agree on the major headlines in Syria, and they both believe that they can slice the cake between them. Now, of course, there are going to be some disagreements, and when disagreements pop up, you will see some rhetorical confrontation between the both sides, but you will not see physical confrontation between Turkey and Israel. The NATO country will not attack or engage in acts of hostilities against Israel. That's not going to happen unless Turkey withdraws from NATO or NATO kicks Turkey out of the organization, which I rule out that possibility. So I don't see that there is going to be any confrontation. But what role Turkey will play? Turkey is already, I would argue, owns most of Syria. They own Jordani, so they own 2/3 of Syria, and they own the Syrian National Army. So 2/3 of Syria is in the hands of Turkey. Turkey wants to draw the maritime borders with Syria, try to extract gas from the Mediterranean. They want to establish a military base in Palmyra. So they're doing enough. They're already entrenching their presence in Syria. In the future, if Israel wants to balkanize the country, Turkey could play a role in that, because once these Nusra terrorists attack the minorities, let's say against the Druze in Sweden, or against the Kurds, then yes, Israel will come and present itself as the savior of these minorities. I think the Russians imposed silence upon Bashar, otherwise he would have long given interview. Yeah, probably. Will there be a regime change in Jordan? So this is a very serious issue, and I said that Americans want for Egypt and Jordan to receive 2 million Palestinians, and they're saying no. And they can, of course, destabilize these countries. And as I mentioned yesterday, the Americans do not have allies. They just have, they see the world in countries that are subordinated and countries that are resisting. And even those who have subordinated or allied themselves with the United States, that doesn't mean the US will continue seeing them as allies if the circumstances change. So the US will definitely try to destabilize Jordan if the Jordanians reject the plan. And they could do it through the Muslim Brotherhood. And rest assured that King Abdullah is a good ally of the US and Israel, and the Muslim Brotherhood is a good ally of the US as well. And it's not going to change much in terms of the position of Egypt vis-a-vis Israel. The Muslim Brotherhoods have big mouths, just like Erdogan, but they don't cut ties with Israel or support the armed struggle of the Palestinians. So I would argue that the Muslim Brotherhoods are similar. They would be similar to King Abdullah, and they would even go one step further and say, our brothers and sisters in Palestine are being massacred and slaughtered, and we have to save our brothers and sisters, and we have to open our hearts for them, and we have to receive them in Jordan, because look what they're doing to the Palestinians. They will facilitate it. They will facilitate the ethnic cleansing. EU future, especially at USA new president. I would encourage you, my friend. Your name is Simon or Simon. I would encourage you to tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow's live streaming is going to be about exactly this question with Dr. Tarek Chiril Amar, who is an expert on this case. So tomorrow is going to be this. If you're looking forward to it, hit the thumbs up, guys. That's the way to support this YouTube channel, and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to do more, only if you can, there are different means in the description below. You can support this independent work. Hello, Kevork Almassian. My name is Musher Grigorian. I'm from Armenia, and I'm the host of the YouTube channel of the National Democratic Alliance of Armenia. Hello, Meherjan. Musherjan, sorry. And best of luck with your driving test in slow. Do you think US will start a war with Iran or make a deal when the Iran's leader said negotiation with US is useless? So this is the thing in Iran. They play tough when it comes to the supreme leader, who says negotiations is not allowed with the US, or it's fruitless. But at the other hand, you see the people of Pezeshkian, they are repeating the same mantra over and over again about negotiations with the West, with Europe, and with the United States, and sanction relief, nuclear deal. But once you, I mean, this is not going to be like my opinion now about Pezeshkian, but my opinion about the negotiation. And I believe, this is of course the Iranians know better than me. This is just my personal opinion. Once you give them an inch, they will come a meter. And once you give them a meter, they will come a kilometer. They will ask for more. The Iranians accepted to sign the nuclear deal, right, in 2015. And what happened afterwards? The Americans put it in the bins. So why? Because that was not enough for the Americans and for the Israelis. Because Iran doesn't need a nuclear weapon to deter American and Israeli aggressions, right? Of course, they will have, if they have a nuclear weapon, they would establish conventional nuclear deterrence. But that doesn't mean that they absolutely need a nuclear weapon to deter an attack on them, because the Iranian ballistic missile program, the hypersonic missile program, the drone program, etc., they pose serious threat against the US and Israeli hegemony on the region. Therefore, the Americans will not be satisfied by striking a nuclear deal with the Iranians and exclude the ballistic missile and the drone program. Therefore, Trump sent a new proposal to Iran asking them to give up their, not only the nuclear ambitions, but also their ballistic and drone programs. And that is, of course, absurd, and Iranians will never accept that. But what I'm saying is, if there is someone in Iran thinks that by renegotiating with the US and the West and giving up on the nuclear program, that the West will be satisfied, they are mistaken and delusional. Once you give them an inch, they will come for more and more and more. And it doesn't mean that they will come right away. They will wait. They play a long game. Americans play a long game. They wait 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They wait for the conditions to be better for them, or the conditions worse for Iran. They try to destabilize the country from within. They do lots of things. You can't really trust the US to agree with them on certain strategic deals and expect them to play nice with you. They will never do that. So I'm trying to see. So question. US under Trump admin seems to be withdrawing US from global hegemony position. What are the consequences of that for West Asia? Which blocs are most likely to fill the vacuum? I don't think that the US is withdrawing. The US is managing its. So there are two ways to see this. There is one way which says the US is ending its empire status. And the other way to see it is that the US is managing its steps back without destroying its hegemonic status. So the US knows that the world has changed, and there is no unipolar world the way it was in the 90s and in the 10 years ago to 20 years ago. The US is still a superpower, but the rising powers in Russia and China, they have posed serious challenges to the US, including in Ukraine. So the US has the option of accepting the new reality and stay as a superpower and still continue having its leverage around the world in different places, or go into confrontation against the rivals. And the price of the confrontation is way higher than the well-managed and well-studied and step-by-step withdrawal in some of the files in the world, right? Including its arms of NGO arms around the world, the liberal arm of the empire trying to export its so-called values about human rights and democracy, and buying the dependency basically of the younger generation in Eastern European countries in order to persuade them to join the EU and the NATO, and this all caused lots of troubles in this region, and also trillions of dollars for the US, right? So there is the perception that the US should keep its hegemonic status as a superpower, take one step back, and I'm not saying to isolate itself, but to prioritize the files basically, and not to be present everywhere. And that's a good thing for the world. And we will see increasing participation of Chinese presence in Africa, basically, and in the Middle East. And China is not a destabilizing force. You can disagree with China as much as you want, and I know many people do not like the Chinese Communist Party and do not want to live under the Chinese system. This is all, it's correct, you're right. You don't want and you don't have to. But the difference between the US and China is that China doesn't come to Africa and says that you guys have to become communist or you have to adopt our values, right? They're dealing on a business level, economic level, and they're buying leverage. They're also acting as a superpower and gaining momentum around the world and the respect also of the people by building, not destroying. I don't see that China is playing a destabilizing role in the Middle East or in Africa. Now, some people may argue that they say no, but in Far East Asia they are doing, and they have occupied some islands, or I don't know, there are some border clashes. Yeah, in that region, which is the sphere of influence of China, China is probably competing with other powers. But I'm saying in Middle East, North Africa, in Latin America, and in Africa, China is not playing a negative role or a bad role. Are the World Bank and IMF working in Lebanon? Of course they are. Of course. I would like to clarify with you regarding the possibility of holding periodic joint broadcasts on our channel regarding developments in Syria. Since we have an audience that is concerned about what is happening and is interested in the process around Turkey and the Kurds in Syria, also let me clarify whether you speak Armenian. I speak fluent Armenian, but I don't analyze political issues in Armenian. So what happens is basically I even don't like to go and analyze in Arabic, although Arabic is also my mother tongue. Mother tongue is Arabic and Armenian, but I don't like to go and analyze in. I haven't practiced political analysis in Arabic and Armenian, and I want for people to understand that English language, like I studied and practiced English as my professional work. So I'm more capable of analyzing and explaining geopolitical situations way better in English than in Arabic or in Armenian. I haven't done it before, and I don't like doing it, to be honest with you. When do you think that Israel will annex Gaza, as it is clearly its objective? We don't know, my friend, when, but they will definitely try to do that. And as I mentioned, the Palestinians are in a very vulnerable situation. Question: what's happening in the Lebanese borders with HTS? It's just a border clashes between Nusra and some of the tribesmen in Lebanon, and there is, it seems, some conflict over some towns there. But the main issue is the Nusra terrorists are trying to cut the supply chains between Syria and Lebanon to Hezbollah, so they are trying to impose a siege on Lebanon, of course, for the sake of Israel. The role of Yemen, in my opinion, they are the strongest supporter for Palestine and have hit already 3 US fleets. Yes, I agree. But they couldn't stop the genocide. This is the thing. The only power in the region which could stop the ethnic cleansing or the genocide, if the war restarts, is Iran. No other power in the region has as much missiles and rockets and drones and capabilities than Iran, and the willingness. But Iran has taken also one step back. If there is any analyst telling you otherwise, I think this person is spewing wishful thinking, not reality. Iran has taken one step back from this conflict. And if you see the rhetoric, Iran can come tomorrow and say, I am setting a red line. The ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians is a red line. And if you cross it, there is going to be Operation Promise 3. How about that? They can. Yemenis cannot. They don't have that capabilities. Saudis will never do it. Egyptians will never do it. Jordanians will never do it. No other power in the region will or is capable of doing it. So I'm trying to see more questions. Assalamu alaikum, Kevork. Do you have contacts inside AfD, the alternative for Germany or Deutschland party? Were you able to explain to them about the consequences of ethnic cleansing in Palestine? So in Germany, I only have contacts with politicians inside the AfD and the Zara Wagenknecht coalition. In Germany, they call the AfD far right and the Zara Zara Wagenknecht party far left. I don't fucking care about these terms and what the media says or what the people think. What I care is I want to have contacts with all the parties, right? However, only these two people in these two parties wanted to even speak to me or say hello, right? And this is the thing. The Greens, they see me like an evil. The SPDs, the Social Democrats, see me like a demon. The CDU refuse to talk to me. The FDPs refuse to talk to me. Every other party in Germany, they not only refuse to talk to me, they demonize me, right? The only two parties, and I'm not saying on the party leadership level, just I know people who are either member of AfD or member of parliament from the AfD, and the same thing goes with the Zara Wagenknecht's party, which is anti-imperialist left-wing party. And I don't see them minding to talk to me. Like if I speak with them about Syria, they listen. And I don't have to change their mind. We're having civilized conversation. The same goes with Palestine. And this is the biggest, in my opinion, disappointment from all German parties. I mean, the only party which calls for armed boycott for Israel is Zara's party on the left. AfD doesn't call for that, and that's shameful, in my opinion. And they know very well, and I'm in touch with few of them, and I send them the photos and the pictures and the footage and the videos from the Gaza Strip, and they know what's happening there. Why don't they speak up or say something about it? This is, they have to answer. But I would argue that many people are scared to speak. They would lose their jobs, they would lose their status, they would lose their chance for elections or re-elections, etc. Many people just think about themselves. They don't care. I mean, they probably care deep inside that all these horrors are happening in Palestine, but they don't dare to speak up. Not everyone dares to speak up, my friend. This is the bitter truth. So, your chat full of Zios. I don't have someone to organize the chats, my friend. So if there are if there is anyone who is spewing Zionist or something, just ignore them. So Hamas under Trump. So let's see this question. Under Trump maximum pressure strategy, will Iran be forced to pursue nuclear weapons? If they do pursue nuclear weapons, will the Saudi, Egypt, Qatar bloc feel the need to get their own as well? I don't think that the Saudis or the Emiratis or the Egyptians or the Qataris have even capabilities to develop nuclear weapons. The Saudis want to have a civilian nuclear program, but the Americans will come and build for them. So they don't have like their independent program. But Iran, at the current moment, it doesn't look like Iran is going to develop a nuclear weapon. And in the contrary, Iran is trying to de-escalate in the region, right? And I don't see that there is an imminent threat now against the Iranians. Like Trump would like to go to war against Iran, but I don't see there are preparations to go to war against Iran. Probably the maximum pressure aims at striking a nuclear deal with Iran, which includes other programs as well, like the ballistic missile. But the Iranians will play on time, and Trump will basically spend 4 years and waste 4 years trying to bully or the maximum pressure strategy on Iran, and then it will be fruitless, and he will leave, and he will not be re-elected, and then probably JD Vance will come. So let's see what's going to happen under a different administration. I think in the current situation, the way I'm seeing things are headed in the United States, for sure, this time and next time they are the Republicans. This is how I see it. So next time Trump cannot become a president again, so probably JD Vance. Question: will Sisi have the courage to stand against Trump regarding the ethnic? He has to stop. He has to. This is not about courage. This is about his destiny as well. If he participates in the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, he will be ousted from power by the Egyptian people. And many, many people in the military, they will turn against him. The same goes for Jordan. And remember yesterday, this footage came from Washington when Trump was with King Abdullah. And I said he looked very weak and docile, the King Abdullah. And then he was mocked massively on social media platforms, King Abdullah. Today, Trump gave a short video statement basically praising King Abdullah, telling the Jordanian people how brilliant king they have, and they should be proud and happy to have a king like him. Why? Because what happened is Trump humiliated King Abdullah, and everybody noticed that. And he doesn't want to cause any sort of backlash against him now, if there is any chance that the Jordanian king, in cooperation or agreement with the Saudis and the Emiratis, would accept the ethnic cleansing. So he will give him a chance to accept his absurd ethnic cleansing project. If he doesn't do that, you will see Trump, different attitude from Trump against King Abdullah. What do you think of Trump's rhetoric regarding taking Gaza? It's an absurd rhetoric. It's impractical. He cannot do it. It will not work. Palestinians will not want. Egyptians will not want. Everybody in the region will not want. So what is Trump doing? Basically, he's doing the bidding of Netanyahu and Miriam Adelson, his probably handler, who paid him how much? 100 million, 200 million? I don't know. It's an absurd project that doesn't work. Thanks for all the work you do, Kevork. What is the state of sectarian conflict in Syria now? How are people feeling on the ground? So in Aleppo and Damascus, not much is happening, my friend. And of course, there are some, verbal harassments, but there are no executions of people in Aleppo and Damascus. Those are the major cities. It's mostly happening in rural areas, in Homs, Hama, and Latakia and Jebli. And every day we receive reports, and those reports are not from some Assadist outlets or pro-Assad outlets. They are like the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and other organizations which were very anti-Assad, and they're reporting every day killings and executions in central Syria and the coastal part of Syria by these HTS terrorists. Mostly are sectarian motivated killings, right? The other day, they have killed an entire family in Latakia, and they found their bodies in near the bushes. So yes, it's still happening, and these elements in Nusra and HTS, they are sectarian, racist, terroristic, and their fuel is hatred. They can't not do such things. This is something that is so entrenched in their brains. The entire, in my opinion, the so-called Syrian revolution, the driving force behind it was revenge and hatred, revenge and hatred, revenge and hatred. It's this very strong energy, and they still do it every day. Would USA attempt Jordan and Egypt regime change? Yes, of course. But first, they have other cards to play, as I mentioned, like cutting the military aid, the financial aid, try to persuade them, blackmail them, and bully them. There are other cards first for Egypt, for the United States to play against Egypt and Jordan. Jordan is more volatile and more vulnerable than Egypt because Egypt has a strong military. But in any ways, the alternative in Egypt and in Jordan is the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood is a group that is under the umbrella of Qatar. Qatar pays their money. Qatar gives them the ideological support and the media support and the financial support. And Qatar is a major non-NATO ally. And if they replace King Abdullah or Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with the Muslim Brotherhood, the alternative is also going to be pro-US because Qatar is pro-US. So we have to see it from this perspective. Also, thank you, Mono, the F money. Thank you guys for the generous support. Really, I appreciate it. So I'm still looking for more comments, more questions. What do you think about the Lebanese Abdel Rahman Shahadi, newly appointed head of intelligence in Homs? I don't. Is he Lebanese? I don't know, my friend. Akram, hello. I hope you're doing well. I don't know about him. Is he Lebanese? Newly appointed head of intelligence in Homs. There are multiple personalities in HTS government who have taken high security and military positions who are not Syrians. And that is unprecedented in Syria. But I don't know about Abdul Rahman Shahadi, to be honest with you. Kevork, Al Jazeera is reporting that Israel is building 7 military bases in Syria. I think it's 9 now. Can you comment on that? Of course, Israel has been waiting for the regime change to happen in Syria, and they have collaborated with Turkey to continue the regime change and finish the job so that the Israeli occupation forces occupies Mount Hermon and establish new military posts inside Syria and occupy the water resources and destroy the entire um, strategic weapons of the Syrian Arab army. So Syria is now castrated; it doesn't have any army. So Israelis can expand freely and establish new bases, and they will not withdraw from this. Rest assured, Israel will never withdraw from the territories occupied recently. Golan Heights are gone, Mount Hermon is gone, and all the newly occupied areas are gone. And Jolani, HTS, all these people, they will not do anything to liberate Syrian territories. They will not do it. They will not go into conflict against Israel. Jolani is praising Trump as a peacemaker. Erdogan is telling Jolani that he should tone down with Israel. When Jolani speaks about the massacres against the Palestinians, he speaks in a passive language. He doesn't even mention Israel, who is the perpetrator of these crimes. HDS is received by HDS foreign minister, received by Tony Blair. The other day, the PR propaganda guy of Tony Blair did the podcast with Jolani. This is where Syria is headed to. It is now revolving in the umbrella of the globalists and the U.S. empire. And Jolani will sell his mother, would sell his mother in order to stay in power. And so therefore, until not in the near future, but rather in the further future, if some patriotic leader comes to Syria and rebuilds the Syrian military, which is mission impossible in these current circumstances, then we could probably speak again about restoring these territories. Until then, it's gone. It's gone. Who is your current Syrian actor, favorite Syrian actor? To be honest with you, I don't know if I should mention names. There are multiple. The other day الممثل السوري. Let me check ممثل السوري podcast. So the other day I watched a podcast for a Syrian actor, and I'm going to show you his photo. Let's see. Okay. Bassem Yahour. Bassem Yahour. So this is Bassem Yahour. I like him a lot, and I think he's very charismatic and patriotic, and he didn't sell and start to whitewash HTS after this takeover of Syria, which is amazing. He was on a podcast recently, and he spoke the truth. And he doesn't care because he has lots of money and he has made lots of fortune. And I like him. I like Bassem Yahour. He's since I was a child, he was an actor, and he took part in many series and movies. Is Black September going to happen again now that Palestinians are going to get exiled? We don't know yet, my friend, if they're going to be exiled, but if it happens, yes, in Egypt, in Jordan, you have 60% of the population are Palestinians. There's going to be a huge backlash against King Jordan, and that he knows it, and that's why he said no. Otherwise, he would have accepted the ethnic cleansing. So yes, it's very likely that the Black September event may happen in Jordan. And for those who don't know, you can Google. Let's give you very quick Black September Jordan, just for you, just quickly to know, because there was a similar event in the past, and this has happened in 1970. Black September, also known as the Jordanian Civil War, was an armed conflict that took place between September 16 and 27 of 1917 between Jordan, led by King Hussein, the father of the current King Abdullah, and the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, led by Yasser Arafat. The conflict escalated after the PLO's strength grew following the 1967 Six-Day War, leading to violent clashes in June 1970. The main phase of the fighting ended on September 27, 1970, but some aspects continue until July 1971, when the Jordanian military drove out the Fidaiyin from the cities, marking the end of the conflict. After the expulsion of the Fidaiyin from Jordan, the Palestinian Black September organization was founded to carry out attacks against Jordanian authorities. One of their most notable attacks was the assassination of Jordanian Prime Minister Wasfi Tell in 1971. So, yeah, definitely. Salam, Marcelo. Hello, my friend. I'm checking question marks. Is the two-state solution dead? Do the BRICS powers have any interest in supporting Palestine cause in actions? Well, my friend, I think the state solution has been dead, and it was a fantasy that many politicians tried to convince themselves and us that it is possible. And it is now, if there was anyone who believed that two-state solution was a possibility, I think after October 7, everything is clear. Two-state solution is not a possibility, it's dead. It's either going to be one Zionist state and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, or it's going to be one state solution where the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims and everyone live side by side under one constitution, which gives them equal rights and equal opportunities and responsibilities. However, is this possible under the current Zionist mindset? No, of course not. So we have the stalemate or the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. This is what they're working on. I'm checking question marks. So I hope that people stop fighting each other so that I can see the questions. Did Russia sell Syria for Ukraine? I don't think that politics is like the way some people speak about, like selling and buying and like, I give you Syria, you give me Ukraine. But there is definitely the Ukraine factor played an instrumental role in this, especially that Russia was heavily involved in the war in Ukraine with its intelligence, military, technology, advisors. So it's really possible that when the attack happened against Aleppo, the first days, that Erdogan talked with Putin and told him, don't worry, we will keep your fleet in the Mediterranean. This guy, we have to get rid of him. It's for us, it's impossible to coexist with him. And we will urge HDS to keep your fleet in the Mediterranean. Probably this type of talk has happened, but I'm sure that Russia didn't like anticipate or didn't conspire, let's say, against Syria to start the attack on Aleppo, if that makes sense. Kevork, invite Dr. Orlalu from YouTube channel. Geopolitical trends. Let's Google it. Geopolitical trends. Okay, I found him. Okay, my friend. I will keep this in mind, okay? And I will check if he has any way to contact. He doesn't have a way to contact, but I will try to find a way to contact him, okay? I will watch some of his videos and let you know. So, we have still, I can still take few questions. Do you think how the Turkish people feel about their government's actions in Syria? So the Turkish people, just like any other people, they are divided. Like we have the Islamist Turks, you have the nationalist Turks. Probably they are, I don't know, 60%. I don't know. I'm just speculating. They're definitely with Erdogan with what he's doing in Syria because they believe in the neo-Ottomanism and they believe in the Islamic Ummah. So they agree with Erdogan. But you have the left-wing Turks, you have the minority Turks, you have the Alawites, you have the Kurds, you have the socialists, you have different. The politics is a huge spectrum, right? Probably 30% of the Turks do not agree with what Erdogan is doing in Syria. That's what I would argue. But I would say also it's about 50% of Turks agree with Erdogan with what he is doing in Syria. So, question mark. Can the Alawites create their own resistance with the support of Russia? Yes, they can. However, should they create their own resistance? And do they have enough manpower for that? And equipment and money and weapons? Because you don't want them to lose the war, then there is going to be genocide against them, right? So you don't want to put them in the front of on the front line against HTS and not guarantee their victory. And what happens after victory? Are they going to advance to Damascus, or are they going to keep the coast? Are they going to accept the partition of Syria? So what is the end goal of the resistance? To defeat HTS and reunite Syria, or to create an enclave in the coast? Those are different things. Syriana Analysis. Will you ever go back to Syria? Under HTS? Under Jolani? No. I'm not crazy enough to go to Syria and get killed by Jolani's gangs. Yes, I like Tarek too a lot. Tomorrow he's going to be my guest. So if you are looking forward to it, guys, Tarek Cheril Ammar, he's a brilliant historian coming tomorrow to the show. I would really appreciate it if you subscribe and tune in for tomorrow's talk with him. Do you think they might think to move Gazans to Syria to focus rebuilding for refugees efforts and aid? Yes, of course. I can assure you this is part of the plan. And I know it because the USAID, US government-funded activists who have been whitewashing Jolani, Nusra, HTS type of people for a long time, they have already started normalizing the narrative or spreading the narrative that our hearts are so big in Syria and we have to receive if the Palestinians were forced to leave, we will accept them in our homes. So they're trying to normalize it. Yes, I think this is a very, very, very dangerous thing because Jolani is very exposed and vulnerable, and his regime. If the Americans and the Turks remove the curtain from under the feet of Jolani, he would fall. He could fall tomorrow. He is only in power because the US wants him to be in power, Israel wants him to be in power, and Turkey wants him to be in power. If they decide otherwise, because he doesn't accept any of their demands, they could get rid of him very quickly. So yes, this is a real possibility that they would send few 100,000 of Palestinians to Syria. So, question. Kevork, have you listened to Dimitri Laskaris' podcast condemning Scott Ritter's condemnation of the Arabic countries? I would love. I've watched it and I saw Scott Ritter's also comment, and I don't want to get into personal issues. Like, I understand why Dimitri is responding to him and he has a point, of course. And Scott, I don't know where is he coming from. Like, blaming the victim. I don't know. I probably I misunderstood the post, and they were also previous posts by Scott Ritter. Like, I don't know. Some people said that he probably indicated that the Palestinians deserve what happened to them because they sided with the some of them, of course, HDS in Syria. I don't know, and I don't want to get into personal issues, to be honest. I only care about what I say, and sometimes I receive harsh criticism in the comments, and I'm like, I roll my eyes, like, what the fuck is this comment? People really harsh criticizing me for an opinion that the guest has expressed on my channel, and they're expecting me to intervene and debunk him and do this. I don't do these things. I don't like it. If I want to do something like this, I would say it from the beginning of the show that, guys, we disagree with this guest, and I'm here to, chit and chat and counter argue him. But if I'm having a guest and allowing him to say his mind, because I want to listen to him, and not always I agree with the guest, but I have also a schedule and a program that, like, I have at least, let's say, 8 to 10 questions to ask him, and I don't want to miss some of the questions, and I'm asking his opinion, and I'm always following up also his answers with my opinion, right? At some point, I tell the guest that it's your opinion, I respect it, but I stand somewhere else. But I'm not here to do these things, clash and fight, and there are so many other channels doing this. It's not even in my character to do it. So I'm checking more questions. I still have 10 minutes, guys. So, question mark. Your hair is so full. How do you do it? I water myself every day. It's just my genes. What can I say? Every day I have extra hair everywhere. Like, I go to the barber and the barber like, what is this, bro? Like, you have hair on your forehead. Probably my ancestors' genes. I don't know. But I'm happy with my hair, if that is the question. Oh my God, my eyes are like... Why do millions of people want to come to the USA and even come by foot if the USA is so bad? That's a very good question, my friend, and I will answer to you. Because the US has an enormous financial might, and the pool of money is big in the United States, so people want also to benefit from the financial, the dollar hegemony, which is printed in the United States. The people want to live in a superpower which has a strong economy to have better jobs and better livelihood for them and for their families. But the people who hate the United States and go to the United States, they also have a point by saying that the US meddles in the affairs of their own countries. The problem with the US is it doesn't allow other countries to develop and grow. And if the United States sees any regional or even below regional power that is growing its economy and taking care of its people, they go to this country, they do regime change, they intervene into their affairs, they destabilize the country, they create a civil war, they arm insurgents, they destroy their entire economy. And then the people, when they come to the United States, they say like, why are you coming to my country? Okay, then you shouldn't wage these wars. You shouldn't do regime change wars. You shouldn't conspire against them and do coups against their government, impose sanctions on millions of people are sanctioned by the United States. Tens of millions of people are sanctioned by the United States, and they can't do business with the outside world. So if somebody hates the United States, it's because of the policy of the United States. Nobody is born hating the United States, but many people are born and they see that they have 70 years, 80 years of their life is only struggle and struggle and struggle because they have American bases outside their farms and outside their cities, stealing their oil, stealing their wheat, and destroying their economy. And of course, they will hate the United States when you act like that. And I'm not for hating an entire nation, but there should be a certain level of hatred against the policies of the people, the psychopaths in Washington, D.C., who wage these wars and these operations, right? Including my country. I'm from Syria, and the United States has played a destructive role in my country. They started a regime change war. They have armed Al-Qaeda terrorists. They stole our oil fields and wheat fields, and they bombed Syria many, many times. Have you heard of a Syrian refugee before 2011? No. And then you start like, why are those Syrians are coming to the United States? Well, that's why. So I will take 2 more questions. I'm taking. Somebody's asking if I do documentaries. I don't do documentaries. I don't know how to do documentaries, to be honest. I'm not really well on this. By the way, while you're watching this, I would appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up. That would really help me with the algorithm of YouTube. And just for you to know, tomorrow, Dr. Tarek Chevil Ammar is coming to the show. We're going to speak about the anticipated meeting between Trump and President Putin, and also the hysteria in Europe that probably peace might be restored in Ukraine soon. So, as our friend says, hit the like button. One time I invited her to the show, Leila, and 5 minutes earlier to the show, she said her browser doesn't support StreamYard, which is the program I'm using. And I said, okay, maybe you should like use your Chrome, because she has a Safari or something from the very, very old version. And she said she boycotts Google products, and I respect it. And I said, okay, download anything else like Opera or Brave or Mozilla. And she couldn't do it. So like I had her literally canceled 5 minutes before the show. Why is Guyana stealing Venezuela's oil? Well, I don't know, my friend. I'm not aware about that. I'm not following every news around the world, but thank you for asking. Some questions are... Anyways. Guys, don't interact with people and call each other names, and it's just... It's a waste of your energy, believe me. Some people are just, they want to cause... They would thrive and they would be happy to see you upset. You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome. So you said Christians and Alawites don't have access to any weapons in Syria, but the Druze have some weapons. How come that is? So there are 2 things here. One, the Druze didn't give up their weapons when the regime crumbled. And they said, no, we're not going to give up our weapons until we find a solution with HTS. So that was one step. Secondly, Sweda is also approximately closer to the Jordanian borders. And the US would definitely definitely supplied them with weapons as well in Sweda, unlike the Alawites in the coast. So the Alawites, many of them have given up their weapons because they were assured by Jolani regime that no, we're not going to persecute you. Everything will be fine. If you give up your arms, you join the reconciliation and everything will be fine. And once they gave up their arms, they started coming and hunting them one by one by saying those are regime remnants. Yeah. Never, ever trust a Muslim Brotherhood. Never. I will take one last question. So this is the last question. Why does Hamas support HTS? Why did Hamas fighters joined al-Nusra Front in attack Yarmouk Palestinian camp? The reason is simple. Why Hamas betrayed Syria and joined al-Nusra? Because in 2011, 2012, Hamas was given a choice by its funders. And who funds Hamas? It's Qatar. It's not Iran. Iran gives them weapons and training, etc. But the money for the politicians and for the political party, etc., it all comes from Qatar. So Qatar has given them the option and told them that they have to choose, either be on the side of Syria, Iran, and Hezbollah, or they have to be on the side of Turkey, Qatar, and they have assured Hamas that there is a bigger plan for the region, where you have seen the Muslim Brotherhood came to power in Egypt, in Tunisia. So Hamas was convinced that there is going to be a major change in the region and the Muslim Brothers are going to come to power, and those are their allies, natural allies, and they don't want to be against this trend. So they have jumped the wagon of the Arab Spring and they have become part of the axis of Turkey and Qatar on the same side of the Clinton, right? This was a horrible strategic mistake for Hamas, and they have paid a huge price for it. And now that Syria is gone, they have lost their backbone in the region. They have also lost a big ally in Lebanon, Hezbollah. I mean, they didn't lose it completely, but Hezbollah has also localized itself. So it's shameful, the least to say, for political bureau of Hamas or whatever to side with Qatar and Turkey. Khalid Mish'al, he is a sellout. He's a sellout, Khalid Mish'al. And yeah, I don't want to say more. That's why when people were asking me about Hamas, and I always said, I don't support Hamas. I don't support Hamas. I will never support Hamas. And for me, what I have seen in Syria, in Yarmouk camp, I was in Yarmouk camp in 2014. You could cry your eyes out for the situation in the Yarmouk camp, and Hamas has played a role in that. They have fought against the Syrian army. How can you justify that? I cannot. So I am on the side of the Palestinian people and their struggle for liberation, for freedom, for dignity. But I don't want to come and claim and say, I support Hamas. I don't support Hamas because I don't support their ideology. I don't support their political affiliation. I don't support their money source, wherever the money is coming. So that's it. So that was all for today, guys. 1.5 hour of Q&A. I'm very happy to, I would be very happy to answer more questions. Unfortunately, I dedicated 1.5 hour and I haven't even eaten anything today. Do you know anything about the Freemasons history in Syria? I don't know any history of the Freemasons in Syria, but I can tell you one thing, my friend, for sure, for 100%. The Freemasons, they existed in Syria during the war, and I know it for sure, concrete, 100%. And they have been active on the ground under the guise of humanitarian work. And they have gained the hearts and the minds of people in different places in Syria, including under government-held areas. And I don't think the Syrian government knew anything about it. And I don't think that the Syrian government was aware. It's shameful that the Syrian government didn't even anticipate the attack of Nusra against Aleppo. So imagine how much they were incompetent to detect a major attack against them, let alone the infiltration of the Freemasons. So I don't know if and now they are formally declared that they have a presence in Syria. I don't know what they're going to do, to be honest with you, but we will follow them. We will see. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all. If you like this live streaming, I would really appreciate it if you can hit the like button before leaving this stream and subscribe to Syriana Analysis. And I will see you tomorrow with Tarek, Jibril, Amar, 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern American Time. Peace be upon you and your families. Salam.